All right, let's talk about a really interesting geopolitical story unfolding in East Asia. It's a classic case of a country trying to flex its muscles, but instead of looking stronger, it seems to have completely thrown itself off balance.
For years, Japan has been known for its pretty cautious, pacifist foreign policy, kind of the quiet one in the room. So you have to ask, why is it suddenly taking such a hard line against China, its superpower neighbor? Well, that's the big question we're going to dig into.
And the answer, when you look at the data, is all about a strategy that just completely blew up in China's face. It's really a story of how one country's own aggressive tactics created the exact opposite of what it wanted.
Okay, so let's jump right into the numbers. This chart here shows how people in Japan actually feel about China. And what's wild is just how negative those feelings are. Just look at the two bars on the far right, the ones that show people who feel no affinity for China. They are consistently huge.
In fact, if you add those two negative bars together for 2025, you get this. A massive 73.5% of the Japanese public feels no real connection to China. I mean, this isn't just some political disagreement. We're talking about a really deep, widespread psychological divide.
And you know, that personal feeling, it translates directly into how they see the official relationship between the two countries. This next chart shows exactly that. And again, just look how big those blue and purple bars on the right are. They dominate the chart.
For 2025, the total comes out to a whopping 74.5%. That's almost 3/4 of the public saying the relationship with China is bad. It's basically the exact same number as the personal affinity score we just saw. So what on earth is driving this?
Well, a huge piece of the puzzle seems to be this thing called wolf warrior diplomacy. Now, this is not your typical quiet behind-the-scenes negotiation. It's a super aggressive, confrontational, and often pretty intimidating style that Chinese diplomats have been using, and it has definitely been noticed. And here's a perfect and pretty shocking example of what that actually looks like. So, Japan's prime minister made some comments about defending Taiwan. In response, a Chinese diplomat made a post online that was widely seen as a beheading threat. The Japanese media didn't pull any punches. They straight up called it a death threat against their leader. You can just imagine how that went over.
The impact was huge. The data shows that things like this have led a staggering 87% of the Japanese public to see China as a threat. So, what was maybe intended as a show of strength was instead seen as a direct menace.
So what happens when almost your entire population feels threatened by a neighbor? Well, the whole political game changes. All of a sudden, being tough on China isn't a political risk anymore. It's actually a great way to win votes.
And this chart right here shows you exactly what I'm talking about. When Prime Minister Takaichi made those strong statements, saying a Taiwan contingency would be a crisis for Japan, look what happened. She got a big boost in public support, with nearly half the country, 48.8%, approving of what she said.
And here's the really stunning part. After China reacted so aggressively to her comments, including that threat we just talked about, her cabinet's approval rating didn't drop. No, it shot up to a new high of almost 70%. The public was basically sending a crystal clear message: we like leaders who stand up to this kind of pressure.
But what's the real root cause of all this negativity? This chart breaks it down. And it's not about the economy, it's not about cultural clashes. Look at the two biggest bars: political reasons and diplomacy/security reasons. It all comes back to that feeling of being threatened.
Now check this out for a contrast. Let's look at why people say the Japan-Taiwan relationship is good. What's the biggest reason here? It has nothing to do with politics or security. It's social and cultural factors. This tells you everything about two very, very different relationships.
So what we're really seeing is this fundamental split, right? Japan's relationship with China is being driven by a sense of threat, all rooted in politics and security fears. And at the exact same time, its relationship with Taiwan is being driven by a sense of friendship, rooted in shared values and culture.
So let's just trace the whole chain of events here. It goes like this. China acts tough. The Japanese public feels threatened. This creates political space for leaders who are tough on China and friendly to Taiwan. And the final consequence? China, through its own actions, has accidentally pushed one of its most important neighbors right into a close relationship with Taiwan.
And that leaves us with one last big question to think about. In the world of geopolitics, pushing away a major neighbor and shoving them closer to a rival is a pretty big loss. So, if a country's real strength is measured by its allies and its friends, you have to wonder, has this whole strategy actually made China weaker?